Disappointment. From the moment I was born, I was already a disappointment. Coming from a family of guards, we are never expected to break the tradition. My grandfather, the past consigliere, and my father, the current head of the Capo regime, are influential people in the Mafia world. Our family, the Riccis, swore to devote the entire bloodline to one family, the Romanos. The Romano family is infamous in the Mafia scene. The leaders of the pack. The most lethal clan there is. And we, the Riccis, worked alongside them for years and years, protecting them from the countless threats they face every single day. Produce the best protectors, that's what my family always wanted. That's why they had always preferred sons over daughters, and they had damn good luck in that department too. My grandmother gave birth to 5 sons, and all of them became part of the Capo regime, with my father being the highest ranked. Much to their delight, those sons gave birth to only sons too. My 3 brothers represented what the Capo regime needed: strength, wisdom, and sin. Everything was perfect. Until I came. Like a curse that came to ruin everything, I was born, the only daughter in the entire Ricci clan. The only disappointment in the family. I really wasn't supposed to be born at all. If my mother didn't oppose my father's request to get rid of me, then I wouldn't even exist in this world. I don't know what's better, really. There are definitely some days when I feel like it would have been better if I had just ceased to exist. From a young age, I have always been confused. My father loathed my existence from the moment I was born. I didn't know what I had done wrong. I was a normal girl who loved flowers, dolls, bright colors, and the like. I thought that was a normal thing to do. However, it wasn't normal inside the Ricci household. My father wanted me to be strong, emotionless, and brave, so he took everything I loved away ever since I was young. Again, I didn't understand. It was never like that for my brothers, anyway. While they were allowed to go to school and experience the daily life of a teenager, I was stuck at home being homeschooled. I was practically surrounded by only 4 cold, colorless walls as I grew up. Comparisons basically ruled my life. Women are inferior to men, I would always hear. And although it infuriated me, I couldn't do anything about it. As time passed by, I guess I just got used to it. But I guess it wasn't that bad. I had my mother with me, and she was the only person that kept me sane, that made me feel loved. Whenever my father went to work, we'd sneak out to the flower garden and play with the butterflies. I could still remember her smile, the smile that melted the coldness that I felt in my heart. However, all good things are really bound to come to an end. That dreaded day came, when I lost her smile. One rainy night, my mother and I were left all alone in the house because my father wanted to train my brothers in the harsh weather. I didn't really mind one bit at that time. I was actually happy that I could once again show my real self in the presence of my mother. We were having a movie marathon at that time when somebody suddenly knocked on our door. We thought that it was my father and brothers who had already come back, so I scrambled to get rid of all the evidence that suggested we had a movie marathon while my mother went to get the door. I still regret ever doing that. I should have been the one to answer the door.
Sometime later.
5 years ago. Mom, I called out, dusting my pants to get rid of the popcorn bits that had accumulated when I was snacking on them. I felt proud of myself since I was able to get rid of all the evidence before my father came into the living room. Mom, I repeated once more, frowning when she didn't respond. Mom, I said in a much louder voice, swiftly walking to the door. However, my footsteps halted when I heard my mother's voice, along with multiple other voices. It was strange, though, since I couldn't recognize them. That could only mean one thing: the voices do not belong to my father and brothers. I stayed behind a large wall to peek at the current situation. My eyes widened in surprise when I saw the scene before me. Multiple men dressed in black surrounded my mother. I froze in my spot when I saw one of them pulling a gun out from its holster. It seemed as if time had slowed down, and yet I still couldn't do anything. The man smirked, although his face couldn't fully be seen because of the hat that he was wearing. And with that, he placed the gun right over my mother's head and fired without any hesitation. Bang.
Sometime later.
Talia, get the fuck up. I heard the familiar sound of my brother's voice along with the jerking motion of the bed due to his kick. I groggily got up from bed and saw his disdainful eyes looking down at me. "What time is it?" I grumbled as I covered my eyes with my arm. I felt the wet tears that were lingering in my eyes. I haven't dreamed of my mother for so long, and reliving that traumatic experience is definitely something I don't want to happen again. He clicked his tongue. "Do you think you have the luxury to know what time it is? Father told you to wake up early today since it's your departure, but look at you. It's already your last day at the house, and you're still acting like a disappointment." I didn't say anything and merely pursed my lips together. I know that saying something in this situation would just worsen it. "You better get down in 15 minutes, or else. Father's going to be the one to come up here." With that, he finally left my small room. I sighed as I got out of bed, brushing the stray pieces of hair away from my face. Waking up from that nightmare really frazzled my mind, and I honestly don't want to do anything other than lie down in bed. However, knowing that my father and brothers were waiting for me downstairs, I couldn't do anything but get up from bed to finally get ready. I went to the bathroom sink and splashed some cold water on my face so I could wake up quickly. I then stared at my reflection in the mirror, the water dripping down my chin and some down to my neck. I let out a sigh as my eyes traveled down my features: dark hair, blue eyes, a small nose, and plump lips. I look so similar to my mother. No wonder my father hates my existence. Every time he looks at me, he's probably reminded of her. I look into my eyes and see the same frightened eyes that my mom had when she was shot in the head. At 13 years old, I witnessed my mother's death right in front of my eyes. My father and brothers soon came home afterward, but they didn't comfort me like I thought they would. Instead of blaming the murderers that killed her, they blamed me. And I can't blame them. It really is my fault. If only I was strong enough, if only I had listened to my father and became braver, then maybe she would still be with us up to this day. So, from that point on, I decided to forget about everything I loved. I let go of my desire of wanting to go to school, of wanting to experience the normal life of a teenager, and decided to dedicate my entire life to training. I needed to be strong enough to protect what I have now. I have already lost my mother, and I can't lose anything else. I shook my head to get rid of such thoughts. My father and brothers were waiting for me downstairs, and I knew that I should go down as soon as possible, so I did. I didn't know what I was expecting, really, but I really shouldn't have expected it at all. Today was the day when I was finally going to enter the guarding system, and I thought that there would be something prepared for me when I got down. However, it was the same old scene, my father and brothers silently eating tasteless oatmeal at the table. Every time one of my brothers had to enter the system, I remember them throwing a big farewell party to celebrate the new chapter in their lives. My father would even call some of our relatives to celebrate, but right now, it just feels like any other ordinary day. "Good morning," I greeted and sat down on one of the chairs. As expected, none of them greeted her back, so I scooped up some of the tasteless oatmeal in my bowl and ate it quickly. I glanced at my older brother, Onyx, and looked away quickly when our eyes met for a millisecond. I had always been scared of him ever since we were young. He was the silent but deadly type. He definitely upholds the title of the oldest Ricci grandson since he was the fastest one to get promoted in the Capo regime. He never really blamed me for my mother's death, but he also never acknowledged my presence since then. My eyes then strayed to my second brother, Abel. If Onyx was the silent but deadly type, then Abel is the complete opposite. He was a vocal man who always expected to get what he wanted. He has a big body build, and he's not afraid to use it. He's also the one who openly bullied me since we were kids, and it only worsened when my mother died. My third brother, Reese, rarely came home since he just joined the guarding system not too long ago. He's 2 years older than me, and he's honestly my favorite brother. We aren't that close, but I can tell that he doesn't despise me. It's just a shame that we don't get to see each other often since he became the head of the training system and rarely goes home. After finishing the tasteless bowl of oatmeal, I silently stood up from my seat and placed my plate on the sink. I was about to head up to my room when my father's deep voice stopped me. "Talia," he said in a tone that made me freeze in my spot. I slowly turned around, a little bit expectant of what he was going to say. "Yes, father?" I said in a hopeful tone. You're leaving today, he said, his eyes never leaving the book that he was reading. I bowed my head and nodded. Yes, Father. Good luck. You're going to need it, Abel said in a teasing tone, obviously enjoying my upcoming departure. I ignored him and focused my entire attention on my father. I stood in front of him, not knowing what to do. There was a nagging feeling in my heart that told me to reach out to him. I was hoping, deep inside my heart, that he was going to tell me that he's going to miss me since I was going to be away from home for quite a long time. But then again, why was I expecting once again? He finally let go of the book that he was reading and looked me deep in the eyes. I held my breath as I waited for him to utter his words. Not even a good luck, not even a goodbye. Heck, not even a nod or pat of acknowledgement. Talia, he said my name once more, his voice still sending fear down my spine. Yes, Father? Don't be a disappointment.
Luciano.
Any last words? I played with the blade in my hand, the shiny yet deadly metal glistening in the dark room. Only a single dim light bulb illuminated the room, hiding its dark secrets from the naked eye. Christopher lifted his head up and looked at me with pleading eyes. Luciano, please. It wasn't my intention. I was only forced to do this since I needed money. Why, you know how I'm trying to pay my debt up until this day. I stood back and watched as his pathetic face twisted into a painful grimace. His body was covered in bruises and wounds, and his lips were already white as paper. Is that so? I said in an indifferent voice, circling around his frail body like a predator hunting its prey. He weakly nodded his head. They found out about the illegal properties that I sold. Now, the government has claimed them, and the clientele is demanding that I refund the money. A dark chuckle escaped my lips. Of course. How could I ever forget the time when he claimed the land as his when it was still in the process of getting its title transferred? I let him off the hook back then because I knew that he was struggling with money, but now, it has come back to bite him in the ass. Spare me, please, he pleaded once more, desperately looking into my eyes. Answer me then, I nonchalantly said. Who did you sell off our information to? I leaned closer to his face, holding onto his bruised neck with an iron grip. Christopher choked, his filthy saliva carelessly dripping down his mouth. I don't know them, he sputtered. I let out a scoff of disbelief and harshly removed my grip from his neck, wiping the wet debris on my handkerchief and quickly discarding it. Then, you leave me no choice. You know what happens when somebody betrays the alliance. I gave him a knowing look. His eyes showed immense fear, and he started backing away from me. But it was of no use. He was bounded by straps and chains, and the only way he could escape was if a miracle happened right then and there. Luciano, he said in a shaky voice. Weren't we friends? We've gone on countless missions together and celebrated plenty of accomplishments. Compared to all of the good times we've spent, this is nothing, right? Can't you let me off the hook just once? Then, I'll promise to serve you my entire life. A reminiscing smile made its way onto my face, and for a second, I saw a wave of relief flash past Christopher's eyes. Really? I asked. He enthusiastically nodded his head. I promise my entire life to you, Luciano. I'm going to serve you until the day that I die, he begged in an anguished tone. My smile dropped, and I clenched my jaw to control my anger. Then, you should have thought about that before selling our information to the enemy for petty money. I plunged the sharp blade deep into his heart while looking him dead in the eyes, not a smidge of remorse in my gaze. In under a minute, he had started coughing up blood, and I knew that it was only a matter of time before he bled to death. What about everything we've been through? See, comrade, he weakly squeezed out. I smirked and plunged the blade deeper into his chest. There's no such thing as comrades in this world, Christopher. And with that, I pulled the blade out of his chest and left him to die all alone. I didn't bother looking back and continued walking away from the scene, opening the door of the torture den without any hesitation. The harsh light outside of the den blinded my eyes for a second, making me squint. I'll leave you two to clean the mess, I said to the guards who were waiting outside the room.
Sometime later.
I clicked my tongue as I washed off the stubborn blood that had stained my skin. As I was washing my hands, I heard a set of footsteps coming into the bathroom. I didn't even have to turn around or lift my head to know that it was my sister, Renee, who was coming into the room. "What do you want?" I asked, but she only stood there and didn't say anything. She clicked her tongue, so I finally lifted my head up, only to see her looking at me with eyes of disappointment. "What?" I snapped. "You did it again, huh?" I sighed and shook my hands on the sink before taking a couple of paper towels to wipe them. I turned around and leaned against the counter, looking into my sister's disappointed eyes. "You don't understand," I merely said. "Of course, I understand," she stubbornly said. "I'm watching my little brother mercilessly murder the people in our faction multiple times a month. And it's even Christopher this time around. You were friends. Shit, you grew up together. What the fuck happened? This isn't you, Luciano." I placed my hands over my eyes and massaged the bridge of my nose. Renee always does this every time I have to eliminate someone, so it isn't new to me. It doesn't make the situation any less annoying, though. "Again, you don't know anything about what's going on behind the scenes, Renee. The people that I kill, they're not as good as you make them out to be. Just let me handle this while you live your own peaceful life, okay?" Renee let out a sigh of disbelief before shaking her head. "Yeah, but this is Christopher we are talking about, a person you knew before you were in this shit. How could you do this to him? He defied a law in the compendium. I'm not letting him off the hook just because I knew him before all of this shit." "I can't believe this," she muttered under her breath. "You're really not my brother anymore," she said, leaving the room in silence. I stood all alone in the wide and cold bathroom as I heard the door slam close. I raked my fingers through my hair and looked at my reflection in the mirror. I shook my head and quickly forgot about her words. Being in the Mafia for so long, I've grown accustomed to not being fazed by any words, not even from my family, especially not from my family. I went out of the bathroom and walked to the dining room, where my family was already having their dinner. My father glanced at me quickly before focusing his attention back on his food. "Did you handle the problem?" he asked as I sat down on one of the chairs. I nodded my head. "Everything's settled." "Good," he nodded his head. "I didn't expect anything less from you." I heard Renee scoff, but I completely ignored her and silently ate my breakfast. "Right, I almost forgot," my father suddenly said. I looked up from my plate. "I heard that there have been some other clans lingering around our territory in the west. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but I hope you handle it soon. You know how important that territory is to us financially." I nodded my head. "I was planning on heading there after dinner," I said, loudly placing my utensils down on my plate. "Actually, I'm going there now." "What about your dinner, Luciano?" Janice, my other older sister, asked. I shook my head. "I'll have something when I get there." Janice's distressed look made me want to sit back down at the dinner table, but my father's words prompted me to do the opposite. "I'm expecting you to fix this," he said. "I will," I said, leaving the dining room despite only being there for a couple of minutes. I sighed as I got in the car, placing my shades on and playing with the lighter in my pocket. "To Vigata." The driver nodded his head and started driving to the Western Territory. I rolled down the window of the car and let the soft breeze thread through my hair. The atmosphere started getting darker as we drove deeper and deeper into the territory. Flickering street lights, ambient smoke, broken glass, and the scent of sex and gasoline lingered in the air. This was the norm for me, though. Being the Mafia head for more than 4 years, I have become immune to such scenes. The moment I stepped into this mortal world, my father had already shaped me to take over the Mafia. I was the youngest out of 3 children, my 2 older sisters refusing to become the head of the Mafia. Being the first and only son of the family, I had no choice but to take the position. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. Ever since I was young, the Mafia has been all I've ever known and seen. It's what I know best, and it's what I do best. Don Luciano. We're here. And it's what I'm going to keep on doing.
Talia.
This is it, I whispered to myself as I looked at the large house right in front of me. I let out a sigh as I let my eyes wander through the cold exterior of the place. Everything about it just seemed dark. However, I need to get used to it, this house will technically be my home from now on. Best of luck, Miss Talia. I heard Ben, our chauffeur, call out from the car. I turned around with a small smile on my face. Thanks, Ben. Take care of Rosie for me. He nodded his head. I will, Miss Talia. That little retriever is already making her way inside my heart. I'll send you some updates from time to time. That'd be much appreciated. Although, I don't even know if I can use my phone that often from here on out. Do you need help with your luggage? He asked. I shook my head as I fixed the position of the duffel bag on my shoulder. No need, Ben. I'll take it from here. I didn't bring much stuff anyway since I knew that we wouldn't have the luxury of having our own space. Well then, Ben tipped his hat. See you when I see you, Talia. I gave him a small salute and watched as he drove the car out of the driveway. I let out a sigh once more before finally walking over to the entrance of the house. Halt. A tall man held his hand out in front of my body, prohibiting me from entering the door. Who are you? I cleared my throat and straightened my posture. Talia. Apprentice guard, I shortly introduced myself. He raised one of his eyebrows. A female guard? He whispered under his breath. Well, the apprentice guards are not allowed in this area. Weren't you informed about that? I looked up at him, confused. No, I wasn't. He sighed. This is for the main family and the official associates only. The living quarters for the apprentice guards are located over there, he pointed. I looked at the direction he was pointing in and pursed my lips together. Next to the big-ass mansion was a beat-up 2-story house with moss growing on its walls. Heck, I don't think I can even call this a house. It's like a big slab of concrete with makeshift windows. Thanks, I briefly bowed my head before walking over to the building. I entered the house and was utterly shocked when I saw the scene right in front of me. I already knew that it wouldn't be luxurious from the stories that Reese told me. However, I didn't think that it would be that bad. About 30 other apprentice guards were cramped inside the 300-square-meter lot. The beds were next to each other, with no partitions or curtains to divide them. It seems like I also entered late since they were already changing into their uniforms. They stopped and stared when they saw me come into the room. I paused in my tracks as I watched their hungry eyes look at me as if I was their prey. Damn! There's a sweetheart in this place? I didn't know that the qualifications were that low, one of them shouted. Others chuckled while others continued staring. I decided that ignoring them would be the best option for now, so I trudged over to one of the empty beds. I looked around the place and saw some other women, about 3 of them scattered around. However, they appeared to be much older than me, and one of them had the body of a bodybuilder. I settled beside the kindest-looking woman in the room. It seemed like I picked my place well since she smiled at me warmly as I fixed my things. I was in the middle of changing into the uniform when 2 people suddenly came into the lot, 1 man and 1 woman. I suppressed the smile that threatened to form on my face when I saw who the man was. It has been 3 months since the last time that I saw him, so it's quite delightful to see that he's still doing well. Good afternoon, apprentices, the woman greeted. It is our honor to welcome you to this training system. I'm sure all of you already know what kind of place you have entered. We are happy that you chose this path, but just know that it will only get more difficult from here on out. That's right, the man added. Today, we're going to brief you about what's going to happen in the next 3 months, what kind of rules you will abide by, and what we expect from you after all of this is over. But before all of that, let us introduce ourselves. He looked at the woman next to him. I am Andrea Lancaster, your vice captain for the training system. And I am Reese Ricci, your captain for the training system. My brothers and I's eyes met for a split second, but we acted like we didn't know each other to not create any suspicion from the other trainees. All right. Andrea clapped her hands. Let's start with the orientation. You will all be undergoing a 3-month training program to shape you into the best guards for the Romano family. We are the only Mafia clan that has this system, and it has been effective in keeping internal and external threats at bay. It will be a combination of physical, emotional, and mental programs that will strengthen your assets in different areas. Reese and I will be here to guide you in the next 3 months. Reese nodded his head. Don't be complacent just because we're here, though. We may appear kind now, but we're not afraid to eliminate the members who are deemed incompetent to become a guard. We expect nothing but the best from each and every one of you. We all nodded our heads. Now, I'm going to state the house rules, which aren't hard to abide by. 1. He started walking around. Always adhere to the time schedule. One thing that I hate the most is people being late. If we say that the training will start at 5 a.m., then it's going to start at 5 a.m. Those who cannot attend at the right time will be eliminated. 2. Andrea continued. You must never betray any of the secrets in this Cosa Nostra. Everything you see, hear, and witness while you're here shall never be divulged to anyone. Violating this rule does not only entail elimination in the guarding system, but a different kind of elimination. She looked us all in the eyes. Some took sharp intakes of breaths, but I remained unfazed. I knew that deaths would be inevitable to witness in this place, so I've already prepared my heart not to be bothered much by it. And last but not least, Reese stated, no love affairs are allowed in the 3 months that you'll be here. Not with your fellow apprentices, not with any of your trainers, and definitely not with any of the members of the Mafia. He jokingly added the last statement, lightening up the atmosphere a little bit. Some even chuckled but quickly shut their mouths when Reese looked at them sharply. I know some of you may find this funny, but I'm saying this with all seriousness. It seems like a simple rule, but so many people have been eliminated from the system because of this rule, mostly from dating their fellow apprentices. I tuned him out in the latter part of his speech since I was sure it wouldn't be a problem with me anyway. I came here for one thing and one thing only, to become a guard and to finally gain my family's approval. That would be it for tonight, Andrea concluded. I'm expecting you all to hit the gym on the 2nd floor at 4 o'clock in the morning. Remember, don't be late. And with that, the two of them left the building, causing the crowd to burst into small chatters. As I was fixing my bed, I felt someone suddenly inching closer to me. I put my guard up and heightened my senses. Their presence only became closer, so I quickly turned around, ready to give them a blow to the face, when I saw that it was the woman on the bed next to me. She raised her hands up in surrender when she saw my fist in the air. Whoa, whoa, she exclaimed. Calm down, girlie. I'm only here to strike up a conversation. I cleared my throat and took a step away from her. Even if she looked harmless enough, I knew that I shouldn't trust her yet since I barely knew her. Yes? Do you need anything? Geez, she said, sitting down on my bed. My eyes widened in surprise at her shamelessness. I didn't expect you to be so uptight. But then again, I feel like everybody here is on their toes. I just thought you would be different or something. I raised my eyebrows. Do you need anything? A friend, she smiled. I let out a sigh of disbelief. I'm pretty sure you're in the wrong place if you came here to look for friends. Oh, come on. Loosen up. It's only our first day, so I want to make some friends. We'll be here for 3 months, so wouldn't it be best to make some comrades to make things easier? Besides, I'm your best option, she boasted. Look around you, princess. I did as she told me to do so. The guys were still looking at me with their lustful stares, while the other girls looked to be appalled by my presence. I then looked back at her smug face and let out a sigh. What's your name? I caved in. She smiled in delight and stood up from her seat. Hi, I'm Daisy Dukes. I'll be at your service from now on. I scoffed. Your name is Daisy? I asked, amused by the contrast between her name and the job she was pursuing. What? She asked. It's very fitting, I believe. What about you? What's your name? She excitedly asked. Talia. Talia Ricci. Her eyes went wide like saucers, and she pointed at me with her mouth agape. I frowned. What? Holy shit. You're a Ricci.